Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. With the holidays here, we want to take a few minutes today to look back at some of our favorite moments on SUNUP from 2012, along with a few surprises thrown in along the way. But first, let's hear from our boss, DASNR's interim Vice President, Dean and Director, Mike Woods.
Happy holidays. I'm pleased to join you all on SUNUP and want to wish everyone the very merriest of Christmas, and we hope that you are enjoying time with family and friends. It's a privilege to serve you through our DASNR programs, through the research programs that we offer to Oklahoma agriculture, and also our extension programs. It's been a great year. We have enjoyed thoroughly all the students that we have here on campus. We know that now they're on their way home to family and friends, if not already there. We will look forward to having them join us again next year. To all of you, thank you for allowing DASNR to be your partner in the important work we do in rural Oklahoma and urban Oklahoma, and certainly serving Oklahoma agriculture. We wish you the very best. Merry Christmas, and we look forward to serving you again in the coming year.
A hanging muffler, a few sparks, a strong wind out of the south. The blaze erupted east of Stillwater on July 30th.
There were 40 agencies, there were 200 firefighters.
Dave, when we heard about the fires, you really felt compelled to get out there and document what was going on.
Well, actually, yeah, we got a phone call from a resident east of town, and they were saying that the fire was really getting out of hand over there. So we grabbed a camera, headed out east, and tried to, well, obviously stay out of the way of the law enforcement and all the responders and all that, and just stand back and tell the story of the fire. And while we were doing that, we would set up at one spot and the fire would take a totally different direction. And so we would move to another safe spot, and we got some pretty amazing footage. I mean, the footage that people don't really get to see. One of the houses that we were getting video of turned out to be one of our department heads here within the division. And we went back the next day or 2 days later to do a story about Firewise, and it turned out to be the same house that we got footage of the fire burning all around it. And that was kind of it was kind of surreal as we pulled up, and Todd Johnson, our still photographer, he and I pulled up, and we were like, we've been here before.
It's been a long time since a fire came through here, so time caught up with us.
There's a wooden trellis that didn't catch on fire, and fire. He had, he's got this little irrigation system in here, which is a good idea.
I asked Oklahoma State University's Terry Bidwell to take me through the scene and show me why Keith's home survived. Why did this house survive and others didn't?
Okay, he had the right kind of siding material. This is a non-combustible. Obviously, this is rock, so it took a lot of fire to this side of the house. This is south-facing slope. The ground cover here was very short, but even then, it burned really hot. You can see the black marks along the base here, and it put up so much heat, it actually melted this vinyl siding up here. Wow. The backing behind that siding is drywall, and so, it won't carry a fire, but you can see how hot this got, and this house was very close to burning down. Well, just not quite hot enough.
And one other thing is the cracked glass over there.
It got so hot it cracked the glass on these windows, so you can tell it was he had this Firewise pretty well, but I think if the fire department hadn't gotten in on this thing, we wouldn't be talking about this. It'd just be a pile.
Terry is talking about the Firewise program, which teaches homeowners how to plan their landscapes best to protect against wildfire. The ground cover, like you said earlier, plays an important role in this.
It does, and even though it was green, and you think green things don't burn, green things burn very well. It had an understory of dead leaves from years past, and so this little trail right here didn't burn very much, but you can see very close to the house the white and black ash. So even though it's pretty well landscaped, it still burned. And then you've got this brush here, but it was thin enough, it really didn't carry the fire up into this eave.
Our purpose, of course, is to educate in the process, and that's what the fires became in that moment. Another really educational moment was the 120th anniversary of the Magruder plots. That was a special story for you this year. Talk about that.
Well, my wife and I were actually out getting some still photos of the wheat here on the agronomy farm, and we went over to the Magruder plots, took a picture of the monument there, and it said, that it had started 120 years ago. And I thought, wow, I want to know more about this. I want to know the story. I've always heard about the Magruder plots, secondhand. I thought that's kind of what I do. I should be able to find out the story and tell the story. And so we did, and had the opportunity to interview Dr. Robert Westerman, and he was very insightful about it.
Well, the Magruder plots are the most significant agricultural experiment that we have here at Oklahoma State University and a large part of the United States. This is the oldest continuous wheat plot in the Great Plains.
The trial was first started on a single acre where there was no fertilizer added to wheat, just to show producers in the 1800s it was good to apply some form of fertilizer. What would happen that we can actually pull down our soils to the point where we aren't producing.
And this was about the original location of the plots. But the university thought that they should grow a building where they once grew crops, so they moved the plots about a mile west, which was not an easy undertaking back in 1947. But fortunately, the experiment kept running with very little disruption.
Soils were excavated about 15 inches or so. So the soil was deposited back into the same treatment areas.
We have a manure application which gets enough manure to supply 4 years of nitrogen to an average wheat crop of the region. We have a check plot that has not received any fertilizer since the soil was broken out in 1892. We have a phosphorus-only treatment, a nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and then a nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that is limed when the soil pH drops below a level of 5, which we've had about 2 lime applications since the beginning.
Next week is a big travel night for one special visitor to our state. While most of us will be snug and safe in our beds on Christmas Eve, a sleigh will be making its way around the world on a whirlwind journey. And I do mean whirlwind. High up, the fast jet stream winds provide the speed Santa and his reindeer need to get Santa's sleigh to all its stops. Santa's ideal weather is light snow with puffs of wind that makes the snow on the trees and shrubs sparkle and glisten in bright moonlight. He likes temperatures just below freezing to keep the snow soft and pillowy. The toughest weather is not the cold and wind, but fog. Fog just makes it harder to find each home. Blizzards with their wind-driven snow that reduce visibility are another weather challenge. When it's tough to see the sky ahead, Santa turns to his trusty reindeer to guide him to each stop. Here in Oklahoma, he uses the Mesonet to monitor weather conditions to get ready for Christmas Eve. And since we track Mesonet website hits and where those hits come from, I can tell you there has been a considerable number of hits from the North Pole this past week. With Santa ready to go, it will be a very good Christmas in Oklahoma. Indeed.
One place where both population issues and agricultural challenges are converging is in the schools, like this one we visited outside Kampala. It is here that you can see both how devastating population growth has been on this country, and yet how much potential there is in that population.
The trip I took to Uganda this spring was full of very memorable moments, but none more so than we went to a school outside Kampala. And the school, it's hard to imagine for folks here, 150 kids in a single classroom, elementary age kids. We saw light fixtures hanging, by a frayed wire from the ceiling. There were outlets that were, when they were working, there were no covers, just kind of hanging out of the wall. But the kids had so much spirit and so much joy. They were so excited to meet us and just really swarmed us whenever they could, and were so happy to perform. It really left an impression and really put a lot of perspective on the way you look at things here and the way you approach the things that we take as grueling in our lives, and they're just really not.
Well, Austin, actually, Lyndall had a touching story about kids, too.
Definitely. We were over in Rogers County covering pecan harvest, and we had a chance to stop by a therapeutic writing center called Bit by Bit and meet a really great young lady named Stacy and her sister and some of the people who run the operation and some of the volunteers. I'd always heard about therapeutic writing. I have a family member who is a writer and another family member who is one of the volunteers who helps out. But really to see that story come to life and see the people working with the horses and bottom line, seeing the riders having a good time, but yet gaining strength, gaining independence, doing something that's fun and all involving horses. It's really a really great organization that's really touched a lot of lives.
We incorporate into the riding skills so that they're riding the horse, but they're working on the things they need to work on, like Stacy with her balance and her hand-eye coordination.
Stacy is one of more than 1,000 riders who've taken lessons here since it all began 17 years ago.
We started with 1 horse and 4 kids and myself.
And it grew from there. Founder and director Linda Barron says therapy horses need a certain personality.
We take our horses on a 45-day trial basis because not every horse can do this. And we put them in different situations that will be similar to those in class. And then we talk and decide how they have done. It's a very confining role for a horse in that them being a flight animal, to have a person in front, 2 people on the side, and then perhaps a rider that is not in the position that they're accustomed to on a regular ride. It takes a very calm and gentle horse.
Have you ever wondered how Santa Claus's reindeer make that rather monumental trip every Christmas Eve? Well, I thought we might take a look at some things we know about reindeer and see if we can help solve that mystery just a little bit. We know that reindeer have been domesticated by humans for over 5,000 years, and certainly Santa is no spring chicken himself. So together, we certainly have no concerns about them finding their way around and finding your house on Christmas Eve. Now, how do those reindeer go that long in terms of getting the food and the water that they need? Well, remember, reindeer are ruminants, just like cattle, and that means they have 4 stomachs, or more correctly, 4 compartments to their stomach. That lets them, of course, store enough feed to make the long trip. And we know as nutritionists that if Santa Claus gives them just a little bit of a roughage, like hay or some moss from the North Pole, that digests rather slowly in that rumen, and kind of like your mom would say about some good breakfast material that you might eat, it'll stick to the ribs. Now, how about that business about how reindeer fly? Boy, that's a tough one. It's tricky, but if you'll just take a look at a picture of true reindeer. Now remember, they're not like white-tailed deer that we have here in Oklahoma. They're reindeer. Their antlers are about 4 feet long. Now, you've got 2 sets of antler on each reindeer. There's 8 reindeer, 9 if it's a foggy Christmas Eve. That means that there's someplace between about 64 and 72 feet of reindeer antler span in the case of Santa Claus's herd. Well, any typical small airplane that lands at any airport in Oklahoma may only have 20 to 30 foot of wingspan. So I think it is possible that with all that reindeer antler span that these reindeer can fly, and we know that they're fast. The University of Alaska has done studies with baby reindeer and found that graduate students could even catch them when they're 1 day of age. Well, think how fast they could be when they're full adults, and how quickly then they can move forward and use that antler span to get up in the air. You've probably heard the song say something about tiny reindeer feet. Hey, that one's not true, because reindeer have a very large hoof that helps them dig through the snow and the ice so they can get to some moss, and certainly that's got to be helpful when they're trying to come to that sliding stop on your roof on Christmas Eve. Also, probably you've heard in the song something about up on the housetop, click, click, click. Well, that one is true, because reindeer have a tendon that goes over their knee that makes a clicking sound with every step that they take. Well, this is some of the things that we do and don't know about reindeer, but I think we'll know for sure that they'll make that trip this Christmas Eve just like they've done for years in the past and will do for years in the future. I want to wish everyone a very, very Merry Christmas, and we'll visit with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
These machines are amazing. With something that looks more like a molar tooth than any saw blade, this feller buncher cuts through the trees like blades of grass and then then just lays them down. But that's just the start.
Skidders, you can see over there, they come in, they drag it from the stump to the delimber. The delimber, he processes the wood out, lays it out, the loader sets it out of his way, and he's the one that puts it on the trucks and they take it to the mill.
I'm telling you, we had unprecedented access to those trees and the whole timber industry. I mean, to be able to go that close to the trees and the machinery that are harvesting all of those trees, that's something that not everybody gets to do, and that's one of the fun things about our job is we get to go to those places to show people and you know, Broken Bow who are used to that, but also show the people way up in the Panhandle that side of agriculture in Oklahoma.
Right, because this harvest is nothing like wheat harvest or corn or anything. The machinery, you know, we have that little camera, the GoPro, the same one that the sports guys tend to use to get the cool shots, but you love to stick this thing on machines. Talk about the harvester we got that on.
It's always fun to, like you say, put it in some of the most odd places. I actually got to get up in that big machine that grabs the tree and cuts it. And we mounted it right there on the glass to show what the operator would actually be seeing, and got some pretty amazing footage of the trees being grabbed, cut, and then gently laid over.
Now, it's hard to compare to the action of that, I mean, in terms of the mechanics of what was going on, but we also on that same trip got to go into the archives of the Museum of the Red River and really see this collection. I mean, one of the finest museum collections in the world in a lot of areas. Let alone just this amazing resource in this tiny little town in Oklahoma. That was something that just kind of blew my mind and made my wife incredibly jealous.
This is some of our pre-Columbian material from Central America.
So now, is there a particular time frame or era that you're trying to collect from that you're focusing on?
No, in the Americas, you know, everything starts about pretty much 12, 15,000 BC, depending on who you talk to. And there isn't any actual material culture until you get to about 3000 BC.
This is the day that we normally have our regular guests come on and say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and safe travels. But this year we had a different idea, and for that, we're truly sorry.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a 4th year on your TV.
On the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 2 welding gloves
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the third day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 3 cow-calf pairs,
2 welding gloves
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the 4th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 4 test plots,
3 cow-calf pairs,
2 welding gloves
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the 5th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 5 pilot wings, 4 test plots,
3 cow-calf pairs,
2 welding gloves
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the 6th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 6 Mesonet maps,
5 pilot's wings, 4 test plots,
3 cow-calf pairs,
2 welding gloves
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the 7th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 7 auction markets,
6 Mesonet maps,
5 pilot's wings, 4 test plots,
3 big round bales,
2 welding gloves
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the 8th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 8 cows a feeding,
7 auction markets,
6 Mesonet maps,
5 pilot's wings, 4 test plots,
3 big round bales,
2 welding gloves
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the 9th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 9 bison grazing, 8 cows a feeding,
7 auction markets,
6 Mesonet maps,
5 pilot's wings,
4 test plots,
3 big round bales,
2 welding gloves
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the 10th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 10 farm bill changes, 9 fish a leaping, 8 cows a feeding,
7 auction markets,
6 Mesonet maps,
5 pilots' wings,
4 test pots,
3 cow-calf pairs,
2 welding gloves,
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the 11th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 11 blue ribbons,
10 farm bill changes,
9 coveys flushing, 8 bags of feeding,
7 auction markets,
6 Mesonet maps,
5 pilots' wings,
4 test plots,
3 cow-calf pairs,
2 welding gloves,
and a 4th year on your TV.
On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 12 vectors feeding,
11 blue ribbons, 10 farm bill changes,
9 trees a growing,
8 cows a feeding, 7 auction markets,
6 Mesonet maps,
5 pilots' wings,
4 test plots,
3 cow-calf pairs,
2 welding gloves,
and a 4th year on your TV.
Awesome.
Do we need to kind of change our mindset to adapt for the conditions?
I think we do have to change our mindsets on how we're doing things. And of course, feed is one of the biggest inputs. Okay, well, what about building fancy corrals? Well, I think if you start adding up the feed inputs, the feed costs maybe like, fancy corrals cost money, but they stay there for a good long time.
Another real highlight for all 3 of us this year, I think, was the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with Temple Grandin and interview her again for our SUNUP viewers. Of course, she's the famed animal science specialist and animal behavior specialist from Colorado State. Really great insight that she brought home for Oklahoma producers down in Ardmore.
I have been telling people about don't leave a hose across an alley. If the cattle see a chain hanging down the chute, they'll see that, they won't go through it. There's a coat on the fence. I was just out at one of our biggest plants, one of our biggest plants that has very, very, very good cattle handling. And guess what they had? A yellow hose laying across the main cattle alley in their corrals, and they were trying to drive these really nice black Angus cattle over it, and they were stopping and putting their heads down. I have slides that are 30 years old of hoses on alleyways. You know, you've got to get rid of those distractions.
And I think we all learned something sitting down with her. Once that interview wrapped up while we were still in Ardmore, you two had your boots shined.
We did. There was a nice lady set up there with a shoe shine booth who apparently travels, has booths all over the United States and travels quite a bit to conventions and so on. Dave, I'd like to take credit for that story, but Dave really just looked at me and said, you know, you should go shoot that. That'd be pretty cool. And, you know, from our standpoint, just an interesting person, an interesting story, a lot of good sounds and things to make for good visuals. That was just one of the many nice people we meet here doing the show.
I needed a part-time job. I answered an ad in the paper that said, "Who me? Shine shoes," and listed a phone number.
Well, Mary called that number and learned the craft while living in Tulsa. But after moving to Texas and taking an oil field job, this Oklahoma native started shining shoes again in a honky-tonk for extra cash.
6 years later, I was laid off of my job again and decided to try my part-time job full-time.
And she never looked back. She created a business called Shine to Go and has a few regular locations in Dallas and Denver. But mostly you'll find her at rodeos, horse shows, conferences like this one, and events all over the United States.
I've been from the East Coast to the West Coast and all in between.
If you'd like to watch a complete version of any of the stories we feature today, as always, you can go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu. A reminder that next week we'll feature our year-end roundtable with some of our economic specialists, Kim Anderson, Larry Sanders, and Daryl Peel. We'll look back at 2012 and take a look ahead at some of the things we can expect in 2013. And finally today, we leave you with some of our best outtakes of 2012. We hope you and your family have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.
Joining us once again for the latest in the grain markets is Kim Anderson.
Who
saw a plane behind us?
I couldn't help it.
Now, there's also a lot going on in that region of the world where there is, I'm thinking about the plane.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
What? What's up with that? I'm trying to bring that phrase back.
Walk away from trouble if you can.
And Dr. Brown and all here is here to tell us more about.
So close.
I know, it was like there and then punted.
I guess I'll just be looking at him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this your first time
It
to
is.
do this? Okay, I just wondered. That's good. Whatever.
How about a knuckle sandwich? You
I'm
had
just
lunch yet?
curious.
I don't know why I've started this thing here the last few times. I wind up with my hands up here like I'm a little kid waiting for
Because you're like in a
waiting for my
chair.
next bowl of cereal or something. You know, it's like I don't understand what the deal is.
And then the aphids, I mean, you mentioned that briefly, but anything else regarding the aphids? No.
Not really.
Today we want to talk about concrete reinforcement.
So what is concrete reinforcement?
You're doing a really good job.
What's up with that?
And when you mention the warm season annuals, basically that's referred to commonly as cheat. And that, is that right?
Nope.
Sorry. I saw your
How's that affected things?
It's actually put kind of okay, try it again. That's my first request ever for a retake.
Did you see that?
Ever.
Did you see that? I was there.
I got other stuff to do today, Kim.
Big deal. Not my problem.
Whine? I can't understand you when you whine. That's what I say to Spencer.
I didn't hear me whining.
Let's play it back.
I'm listening. Okay, I've got time to play it back. Go ahead.
What's up what's up with that? And I keep doing it. That's the bad thing.
And I keep rolling.
And you keep rolling. Okay.
All right.